BBC, inspiring Uganda.
Good evening and welcome to Behind the Headlines. My name is Timothy Nyangweso. Tonight we focus on the aftermath of the Kyankwanzi retreat of the National Resistance Movement, especially the resolutions that came out of there. A lot was said, a lot of talkers coming there, but a lot of things talked about between the president and the members of parliament elect. Corruption was one of the issues that came up there, and also appointing politicians in technocrat areas. They also asked to be able to focus on an area of being part of the selection of the cows, the RDCs. Will they see the day of light? But also, why should Ugandans really pay attention to the resolutions that came out of Kyankwanzi? When we talk about corruption, when we talk about the president talking about the speakership, but also the big issues there after elections, after the swearing in coming next month, what will this country, all the 12th parliament, look like? Let's get to the panel that is discussing these issues tonight. On my immediate left, Dr. Yusuf Serunkuma, a political analyst, is with us this evening. After a while of not being here, good evening, Yusuf. It's good to have you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Next to Dr. Yusuf is the Honorable Emmanuel Lumala Dombo, the Director of Publicity and Information at the NRM Secretariat, is with us this evening. Good evening, Honorable, and it's good to have you.
It's a pleasure to be back here again, and good evening to everybody, and good evening our listeners and viewers.
Next to Honorable Dombo is Professor Waswa Balunywa, who is an educator, a leadership and governance analyst there, but also someone who is interested in the affairs of this country. Good evening, Professor, and it's good to have you.
Thank you very much for having me. Good evening, viewers, and it's a pleasure to be here this evening.
Lastly but not least, the Honorable Minister in charge of ICT and National Guidance, Honorable Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, also representing the people of Kinkizi East in Ruchiga.
In Kanungu district.
In Kanungu district, sir.
Yes.
Good evening, Honorable, it's good to have you.
Good evening, Timothy. Good evening, fellow panelists. Good evening, viewers. I'm happy to be here again behind the headlines.
We hope to be joined soon by the Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, who will be joining us, woman member of Parliament, Mbale City, elect there. She'll be joining us here to be able to have a discussion in that area. You can be part of the show. Go to our YouTube channel, drop your comment there. We'll get to it in a short while there. But also the number for text or WhatsApp is 0709 60 25 92. Let us know what you think for us to indulge in this conversation. We're streaming live on X, on our space there. Drop your comment and let's get started with this conversation. The Honorable Dombo, you are in the kitchen of making sure these 9 days happen. Would you count them a success? And what does success look like?
Timothy, I have been party of a number of retreats that have happened in Kyankwanzi. The previous ones I've been there as a participant because I was a member of parliament and one of the active participants. But in this one, I was there as one of the organizers. And like you heard yesterday when the Secretary General made the comments, this has been one of the most successful retreats. The numbers were good, the concentration was heavy, the depth of presentations and presenters was good, and the commitment of the members, even the level of discussion and engagement, was a very successful meeting. And I want to tell you that the retreat objectives were met. For us initially, for now we are very happy with what transpired during the meeting. And what remains is to find out what exactly the implementation, whether what was resolved and members agreed is what they are going to be putting in practice. Allow me to say also that it's important for people to acknowledge why such retreats and meetings take place. Timothy, just look at over 300 members of parliament who have just been elected. And these are new people. Many of them have never been in a gathering and the depth of concentration like the parliament is. the nature of business that is involved, and the hope of all Ugandans is in the institution of parliament, but many of them didn't know even what their responsibilities were under the leadership code, under the various roles that are provided even under the constitution. So these 9 days enabled us as a party to make members of parliament know one another. That somebody from Arua met somebody from Kisoro, and they can call each other by name. That was a very strong thing that we did. The second one is that from the depth of engagement, it was very easy to see that among the new crop, we have people who are knowledgeable by their training, by their background, where they have been. And I want to assure you that NRM will be deploying a number of members of parliament on these media programs so that people can understand the new crop that we have identified there. Then thirdly, is that others ran as individual merit who were elected even under the manifesto of NRM, but many of them were talking about things that they will do. Others promised to buy funeral vans during the elections. But the party has a manifesto. Government has got a development plan. Government has got a budgeting process, and government has a criteria of selection of priorities. Now, these are the issues which you wanted members to understand, that even when you have challenges in the constituency, we have a development plan, but we also have national priorities. Tomorrow, you may be called upon to vote so that we do roads, oil roads in the Bunyoro sub-region, not because Bunyoro is more special, but because oil will help us generate more money in order to do roads in other places. So the members should understand the philosophy of the planning of government. Like right now, the minister may tell you that cabinet came up with about 4 or 5 priorities which are going to guide this budget process. Whereas the outgoing parliament went through them, it was incumbent on us as a party to bring the members of parliament to understand what are the government priorities are. So, by the end of business yesterday, and by today when people went for the range in order to understand how to shoot the target, everybody was appreciating and acknowledging that this was a good retreat, and the resolutions, as we shall go through them, that this was the best thing to do.
And let's go through some of those resolutions, because we have some talking points that we'll come to in the second hour. What were these resolutions, and are they measurable?
Many of the resolutions are. The first one is to uphold the ideological principles of the movement. You know that NRM is a historical organization. There was a purpose when it was first started, and why only a few people started it, and they could even overrun a government working with peasants of Uganda. The question is, what were the underlying factors that propelled peasants and a few elites to come together, pick arms, and overthrow a government? The second one is that people see NRM being in administration for 40 years, but no one has ever asked themselves, how has NRM been able to succeed where other governments have failed? So the reasons we have been able to succeed, like the ideological setting and understanding the organizational discipline, this is something that we had to inculcate in the new members of parliament for them to understand that there is a reason why organizations succeed and there is a reason why organizations fail. Then the second one, the other one, is the issue of corruption in public corporations and government. In this one, the president was specifically very emphatic when he was talking about it, because you know the incident that happened in the last parliament, and some members of parliament were arrested, and this was a bit embarrassing. And like you heard the president say, that parliament, until now, it is the only organization or branch of government where everybody would run to come and complain or report corruption. That's where the Auditor General reports. That's where the oversight is done. That's where the resources are given. Now, if Parliament ever becomes corrupt, then the moral fabric of governance collapses totally. And the President warned the members that he will not tolerate, and they are better off avoiding going into that direction.
Honorable Dombo, before I leave you to go to the Honorable Minister, can these members of Parliament scrutinize government, or they'll just be defending it?
There are areas where government policy must be defended. Because when the priorities of government have been set and you have gone through them in Kyankwanzi, and you come to Parliament and money is being borrowed for AFCON, when it is our priority, one of our priorities, then the members of Parliament must defend that decision of government to borrow money to ensure that we must do AFCON. When we are going to borrow money for infrastructure, because the budget is coming, members of Parliament now are passing the budget. But there is a component of the budget which is going to be supported by loan and borrowing. Whereas all borrowing must be authorized by Parliament, members of Parliament must understand the background upon which the loans are based. So we expect them, when they come to Parliament, to come and support the efforts and decisions of government. But when the resources have been expended, then they must go and oversee and see whether the money is doing what it is meant to be, whether there is any corruption in the procurement, and whether there are no underlying hidden costs that are intended to benefit the members, the executive members of the executive, the permanent secretaries, but is meant to benefit the people of Uganda. So, if members of Parliament understand and appreciate what they're supposed to do, they must support government business, but they must oversee government and then call the government officials to account when there is need to do so.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Chris, you were part of the team that was in Kyankwanzi, both in the dockets you hold,
Yes.
Member of Parliament elect, but also as a cabinet minister.
Yes.
After Kyankwanzi, what next? What does this mean?
Thank you very much, Timothy. This was an orientation retreat for the newly elected members of Parliament that subscribe to the NRM party. Because as we went to Kyankwanzi, there was a lot of debate in the public. Why should members of Parliament be taken to Kyankwanzi? Why shouldn't all the elected members go there? There were all sorts of forms of conversation. But this was an event organized by NRM as a party to orient its members. Because there are some of us who are continuing, maybe we have attended similar retreats, but the majority of the members are new. They have just been freshly elected into Parliament. Some of them don't even know the ideological grounds for NRM, but they are here in Parliament. So it was important for the party, and it doesn't stop any political party from organizing its own retreats. And people will say, why don't you take all members of Parliament? Parliament, once we have been sworn in, will organize its own orientation program for all the members. And Parliament, if it chooses, it can seek to do it in Kyankwanzi, because Kyankwanzi is a national facility which can be accessed by anybody. I just want to start with that to clarify some of the talk which was in the public. And like Honorable Dombo has said, the members of Parliament have been exposed to a lot of information. You must have seen the program, ranging from how Parliament functions, then the national economy, social services and delivery programs in the country, health, education, socio-economic empowerment programs like PDM and so forth, issues of corruption. So we discussed a range of issues, and I'm sure the members of Parliament, particularly those who are coming to Parliament for the first time, are now empowered. They can now navigate through Parliament. So it was a very educative, very informative, and a very empowering retreat, in my view, to the members of Parliament. And it also enabled these new members of Parliament to interact with the President, interact with the party leaders, the ministers, as they get settled in Kampala, getting ready for being sworn in, and then entering Parliament. So it was something very positive, very useful. So what do we expect? We expect now the NRM members and the independent NRM leaning, they were also there, now to be able to start off much more positively in Parliament in terms of understanding what to do. And of course, many more retreats of this nature will be organized by the party as well as Parliament. So it was something very important because there were many experts who came, including a professor here, to talk to the members of Parliament. There was an opportunity for them to ask. And of course, as members of Parliament, we want to ask for our constituencies. If I don't have a health center in a particular sub-county, why hasn't it happened? You have an opportunity to ask the Minister of Health, to ask the President, and understand how government is functioning. So it was something very positive. And I'm sure Ugandans, especially those who voted the members of Parliament, will benefit from this empowerment which has been given to the members. Now I see the caption, party discipline versus national interest. And you ask the question whether can these members of Parliament check government or they will just be rubber stamps. You see, we are in a multi-party dispensation. We come to the House on the ticket of a political party or as an independent. So there is a duty to support your party. But also the way multipartyism functions is that we caucus, like we had the whole caucus in Kyankwanzi. So most of the critical issues which come to Parliament, because government proposes most of the issues which come to Parliament.
Honourable Minister, you mentioned something that I need to pick on, even when you read the lower third there.
Yes.
What should come first, national interests or party interests?
Well, the party is part of the nation. Yes, because Ugandans have voted and voted for NRM to lead the government in the next 5 years. So majority of the proposals which come to Parliament will be sponsored by the NRM government. And therefore, when you support an NRM position, you are basically supporting a national position, a Uganda position, because the positions and the proposals by NRM are not for Kenya or for Congo or for Rwanda. Their proposals take Uganda forward. So how the parties function and how we function is that the critical, sensitive issues are usually first discussed in the party caucus. The party caucus meeting is closed to the media. At times you have flies on the wall, but it is closed. And that's where members of Parliament debate very freely. At times the government can come up with a proposal and the members change it. They countermand it and reverse it. They are in the caucus. We use the principle of what we call democratic centralism, where in the caucus, members are free to debate. Then at the end of the day, you mobilize the collective consensus from the members. So that when you go to Parliament, basically you support your party. Of course, there are some times where there are issues where the party doesn't have strong interest as such, or it's a neutral subject where members freely debate. But say, in some countries, they even further define it into three-line whipping, where they say this issue is a three-line issue, where you can't deviate. Or this one is a two-line issue, where you can debate the way you want, but vote the party line. Or one-line issue, where you can debate the way you want, and vote the way you want, although we haven't done it that way. But usually the biggest debate takes place in the caucus. And then we come, and for instance, we wouldn't expect a member of Parliament to come and vote against the national budget and say the budget should fail in the Parliament. Because in some jurisdictions, when the budget fails, the government collapses. Because we have promised Ugandans to do ABCD through the manifesto, and we operationalize that through an instrument of the budget, which translates into services that I want the people of Chinchizi East to receive. So if I come, for instance, and I say, no, the government budget should collapse, we shouldn't pass it as Parliament. So now what will I do in Chinchizi East, where I have promised the ABCD to be provided by government? So there is that guidance. So when NRM members meet and they agree as party members, it should not be received negatively by the public. because many people think by meeting as a caucus, it is negative. But even the NUP caucus meets, even the DP caucus meets, even the FDC caucus meets. But of course, their meeting probably doesn't attract attention like the meeting of the ruling party, because we are majority, we are the ruling party, and therefore we shape the narrative in the country. And it becomes, because there is no way you are going to run a multi-party parliament without the ruling party sitting as a caucus and agreeing on how to take the agenda of the country forward. Because we've been elected to ensure that the manifesto which NRM has presented and accepted by Ugandans to be translated into action. So it becomes important to have a collective voice as members who subscribe to the NRM as a ruling party.
And picking from both what you have said and the Honorable Dombo said one of the resolutions is to have the NRM historical notion to continue being told to these new MPs. You have also talked about ideology. When members of the public say this is a political alignment exercise, how would you demystify that?
Well, that's semantics. You're just using a lot of English. But basically, we're saying a political party is formed on the basis of its ideology. I have always argued here that one of the challenges we have is that we have many political parties, especially in the opposition, which are formed on the basis of anger and hatred, and not an ideological articulation. You find them say, Museveni must go, NRM must go. That can't be an ideological foundation of a party. But for NRM, you know the history. It came after observing what was happening in the country. It resulted into young men and women going to the bush to challenge the status quo and bring a new order. And a new order came with clear ideological principles. Whatever NRM does is based on those principles. NRM is methodical. It doesn't just rush to do anything. When you see NRM government saying we are deploying soldiers in Somalia, there is a basis. One of our ideological pillars is Pan-Africanism. That's people in Somalia, our brothers and sisters.
Can Parliament check that?
Come again?
Can Parliament check that?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Honorable, we have seen deployments without the consent of Parliament that you've even come back to tell it when it has already happened.
Like which one?
DRC Congo. And you called it hot pursuit. There was no ADF here, neither was there an issue there. So
no, you read the law.
You
read the law about the deployment and tell me which provision was
the UPDF Act
breached.
Says that you need to consult Parliament before you deploy.
For what purpose? When you are deploying, for what purpose? You must check.
You have to extend.
Is it peacekeeping? Is it peace enforcement? You must look at the law. What does it say? And under what circumstances do you get? You know, many of you don't read. You just depend on newspaper what you have seen. You just read the law. Article section 39 and 40 of the UPDF Act. Before it was amended, maybe the sections might have changed before it was amended.
Is that exceptions when?
Yeah.
Are you saying the exceptions where the UPDF can deploy without consulting Parliament? Is that what you're saying?
Deploy and inform.
You're saying the law has exceptions.
You read. You have a phone. You Google that act. And see, there are circumstances.
The only provision,
it depends on the purpose.
Is hot pursuit.
Yeah.
The only circumstance in the Constitution is hot pursuit.
Now you are coming.
Yes. So
that's what I'm saying.
Is
you have to check for what purpose is the executive arm of the government deploying.
No, but the thing was debated. But it was Emmanuel. It was debated on the floor of Parliament. What do you need to check?
I was in Parliament when Dr. Kiyonga, who was the Minister for Defense, involved himself in a network of discussion and convincing. He even had to go and interact with Honorable Professor Ogenga Latigo, who was the leader of the opposition. And that is one of the areas where Dr. Besigye disagreed with the leader of the opposition. Whereas Dr. Besigye and the members of some members of the FDC did not want the opposition to support the deployment of troops in Somalia, Professor Ogenga Latigo, being a Pan-Africanist, gave his reservations, but he discovered and supported that the deployment was in the general interest of of Ugandans and the entire Africa, and that deployment was approved by the Parliament of Uganda.
2007.
We'll come back. Yes.
Where it requires, like it always does, to follow the law, we always follow the law as the NRM government. In any case, we are the custodians of the law, we are the ones who have written the law as the NRM government. So there is no reason whatsoever why government should rush to undertake something and avoid the law.
We'll come back to that, Honorable Minister. Let me come to Professor Balunyoa. You were there, conducted a few sessions there. When you look at the quality of members of parliament elect that are there, vis-a-vis the job ahead for the next 5 years, how would you evaluate them?
Well, my observation is that the majority of the new parliamentarians are young, very enthusiastic, and the fact that they've got into the party, which has got an ideological orientation, and they have some idea. Not everybody has idea. They have some idea, they agree to be part of that, then they are willing to support that. What is the role of a member of parliament? Many of them have a vague idea. So I see if they are well-oriented and they do what the party chairman has been telling them, because I get amazed now and again at President Museveni. From his early years of fervent ideology to somebody who is very pragmatic, saying, look, young guys, the issue is about discipline. And whether you are in parliament, whether you're in the army, whether you're a young person, if you lack discipline, you will not have a motivation to do whatever you want to do. So to me, that one was really something very, very important. And I didn't expect that. And of course, harming on the issue of corruption. That you see, you people, you are the custodians of the law, you make the law, you have the oversight, and this is a problem which you must solve. Don't get involved into it. So if they listened, I'm sure we'll have a good parliament.
And I've been on some of the online meetings you have done on leadership in different spheres there. What is the biggest need we have as a country, especially in where we want to be in the next 5 years?
I think the biggest need is understanding the challenges the country is facing.
What challenges?
The NRM ideological principle, the fourth pillar is socio-economic transformation.
The third.
The third, well, one of the four is socio-economic transformation. And the country is poor. So can these people understand that we need to transform the country, and how do we do it? That, to me, that's the most important thing for whoever is getting into parliament, because they are going to allocate resources, they're going to identify priorities, as the Honourable said, they're going to support government programs. Can they identify what these programs are and support them? But do they know, for instance, in your backyard, you as a member of parliament, wherever you are coming from, do you understand the level of poverty in that area? Do you understand the level of illiteracy in that area? Do you understand that the people are producing for self-consumption? I mean, they may look fine, but do you understand that, and your role is to lift them up? If they understand that, it will be a great parliament.
Let's, before I get to Honorable Lydia, let's put the NRM aside, let's put government aside.
Yes.
You have read numerous studies, one showing about the multidimensional poverty in this country. Yes. The NRM government showing that poverty has gone down from about 24 to 21% there. Yes. Today I was reading a report about ultra poverty in the country, but also the different measures they have brought in, UPE, UCE, PDM, very many poverty alleviation measures. Are all these things really solving the problem? Because an ordinary Ugandan, you've mentioned subsistency, personal consumption. When you move around in Busoga, move further east, and you look at all these things happening, are these the solutions to what we need as a country for a young population?
The best solution would be focusing on education. If you focus on education, you see, technology is moving the world so much, And if people are not educated and if they do not adapt changing technologies, we shall remain behind. If 80% of your population is in rural areas, 70% producing for self-consumption, not monetized, that is poverty. And what is the solution? Get these people educated and put on the entrepreneurial class. We must teach entrepreneurship so that we can have people to start businesses and be able to compete with the foreigners. Because me out there in the village, monetizing my production may mean me growing some coffee and selling it to the public, growing some maize, selling to the public so that I can buy other goods and services. What is required in this economy are the jobs that we're exporting. And thank God, I think the iron ore, we've done a great job. They haven't come out well, but the biggest factory is in my backyard in Iganga. We are moving to that direction. Those jobs need to come into this country, need to come back into the country, and they're going to come out of we getting educated and we being able to use technology. I said in Kyankwanzi that when I was born, my people were using a hoe. And I've grown old, they're still using a hoe. And the hoe was replaced in 1760 by the first industrial revolution. Mechanization. So if in 2026 we have not mechanized our basic production methods, we can't transform. We can't compete.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Can I make a clarification before somebody comes in? On deployment of troops. Because we debate here, people are watching us. I don't want them to think that we just talk for the sake of just talking. Now, Section 38 of the UPDF Act. This is the deployment of troops outside Uganda. 38(1). It says the president may deploy troops outside Uganda for purposes of A, peacekeeping, or B, peace enforcement. Okay, 38(2). The deployment of troops for purposes of peacekeeping shall be done with the approval of Parliament. Now, let me read for you 39. Agreement relating to deployment of troops outside Uganda. Where troops are to be deployed outside Uganda under a multilateral or bilateral arrangement with other countries, like it was done between Uganda and the DRC, the minister shall enter into a status of forces agreement with the host country or organization. So it depends which part of the law you are using to deploy. And I just wanted to give you that answer.
And the purpose.
You read them together or you read them separately?
There is even a hot pursuit, like you said, where you can also. So.
Let me bring in the Honorable Lydia Wanyoto. Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, first and foremost, thank you for coming. We appreciate that you're here. You were a candidate for the Speakership of the 12th Parliament. Yes. But let's start with Kyankwanzi. You being there, now as a newly elected Member of Parliament, was there anything for you to take home, back to the people in Mbale?
Yes, of course. Not only the people of Mbale, but for all the Ugandans. The moment you get elected, you become a national leader. And going to Kyankwanzi, to the SNALI, the National Leadership Institute, was first of all bring us together. Many members of Parliament are new, they didn't know us. Those of us that are known are the fewer group. There are very many. So meeting and bonding was a given. It was a very important opportunity to meet members of Parliament, know their constituencies, know their background, where they are coming from. There's been a mention of many young people, but there are also very many senior Ugandans, senior citizens who are knowledgeable. They've been working in government. They either resigned or had retired, and they have now come to serve the country, which was very, very important. We were able to get a briefing from the senior sectors of government who made presentations, but most important also at political level, we were able to get sister political parties from Kenya, the ruling party of Kenya. UDA sent us the delegation to share with us the dynamics of group politics. And for me, my takeaway from Kyankwanzi is that we entered Kyankwanzi this time. I've been part of the story of my generation in the party. for many years. But this time we went to Kyankwanzi with a very big success story. And it can be a problem in its own. Because you're not talking now about a parliament that has a balanced political leadership. NRM is obviously dominant. But what does that mean? It's a bigger challenge on our hands. And if we do not deal with it, we are going to have a problem. The country has given us 71.6% of victory. We have more members of parliament on the NRM ticket. What does that mean to Uganda? We should even look at what opposition says. It's going to be internal contradictions or to deliver. So the president's message was more internal. If there's anything that is going to cause us problems, it is us. It's not even the opposition. Because even if we have oversight committees, whether it is PAC, whether it's COSASE, the majority are NRM. So you have somebody from opposition who is chairing a committee, but 90% are NRM people. So we have to be very careful the next 5 years on how we are going to. We have no excuse. We do not have any excuse but to deliver to the mark. And now there is nobody to look at us. It is us to look at ourselves. So this retreat, while we are getting a lot of presentations, even from the head of civil service, we are celebrating a challenge. We are the majority, but Ugandans have given it to us to deliver. And we don't have to look right or left. We must know that what is right, without any excuse, and what is wrong. And that's why you have heard my colleagues talking about corruption. If it's about abuse of office, to be NRM. And nobody is going to check us. We have to check ourselves. If it's about corruption, it is us. Nobody is going to point the fingers. It is ourselves. So for me, how do we sustain this victory? It's to deliver, and we have a manifesto that is very, very pro-people, and we must deliver. The most small resource we have, it must go to the people, and it must deliver. So I'm even happy that this coming month we are going to have the foundation elections of the LOCs and the local government. And that's where the money is going. That's where the supervision is going. We must deliver. And leaving Kyankwanzi, left Kyankwanzi this afternoon because I went for the range. I went to the last exercise. And the president at the end of the range again addressed the issue of leadership, of integrity, and of discipline. So I think even him, it's already at the radar that we have nobody to check us. We have no excuse, but it's about us. Ugandans have given us a mandate with both hands, and they are now going to look and see whether we can deliver. So you've asked me the question, I hope I've been able to answer it.
On the 15th of May, the parliament will be electing or voting for its speakership. You are putting
No, it's not on the 15th of May. The presentation we got in Kyankwanzi, we've been told that speaker will be elected on the 25th of May. On the 5th of May, I'll be part of the last batch to be sworn in. So the last date for swearing in is on the 15th.
Swearing in is 13th, 14th, and 15th.
And I'm one of the last ones because of my name, the alphabet, W.
So you have put your name in the hat to be voted as speaker. Why and what are you offering?
I'm joining the 12th parliament as a member of parliament, and there will be no speaker. So supposing I do not express myself, maybe we will not have a speaker. This is a right, but it's also it's in our rules of regulation that anybody that is elected to be a member of parliament can offer themselves. And there's no reason why I should not offer myself. Otherwise, people would ask me why I haven't offered myself. Because I'm a candidate, I'm a good leader, I'm tested, and the vacancy is there. And I've been elected.
What are you offering? What are you bringing on the table?
Leadership, integrity, competence, and to deliver the manifesto. And set the bar, nothing below that. I do not want to enter parliament, keep quiet, and then when there was an opportunity, then you start lamenting from the sidelines. I'm here to deliver the 12th parliament to the expectations of the people. Fortunately, it's a deployment from my party. I don't even, the rules don't say we campaign. Now you're giving me a platform to speak for myself. The rules are very clear. You're not supposed to campaign. It's a deployment and it should be up the notch.
Thank you very much. Let me come to you, Yusuf. Hearing Honorable Dombo, the Honorable Minister, and the Honorable Lydia Wanyoto there, what do you deduce from this retreat of Kyankwanzi? 9 days of being there. It has been broadcasted everywhere. You could see literally everything happening except the closed door sessions. What do you make of what we have seen?
First of all, I need to ask you, Timothy. I came here before everybody else came. I don't know why, and I sat next to you. I don't know why you jumped me. And I have to speak last.
They are the organizers.
Even when there's a latecomer, who came after?
The English say, the nearer the church, the farther away from God.
And latecomers eat bones. How come this latecomer has...
But I was coming from Kyankwanzi, very fresh from the ground. That's the topic.
I felt cheated. Everybody walked in as I was seated there. But if the intention is for you to make comment on whatever they said, I think that's such a big assignment.
We needed context, especially on why they were there.
I mean, these are 4 NRM people. So one of them was good.
There are 3.
He was in Kyankwanzi. I guess he's a lifetime card-carrying member of the NRM.
I'm a lifetime member.
You can see, this is 4 NRM people against the single individual. It's not fair to make me speak last.
By the end of the show, I want us to recruit you also.
But I took plenty of notes, and I want to start here. You know, Emmanuel Dombo said something interesting. He said they are learning, the members of parliament who have come in, and they've discovered some interesting people with interesting skills. And that really bothers me, because I think the idea of caucusing and giving people party cards signifies the fact that you know whoever you give your party cards and you knew their skills. Because this is a party, you'd assume that whoever they give their party cards, they knew them. They had been cultivating their involvement in the NRM. But that you learn them in the next 9 days is something that we need to think about as a country. Because we have these so-called political parties which are often given for cards, but clearly from the submission you hear they don't know who these people are. They need to learn them, And we spent quite a bit of time. I was trying to interject Minister Wariomus when he was talking. And I think also Professor Balunya repeated, the Pan-Africanism is not an ideology. Pan-Africanism is not an ideology, and here I'm speaking as a scholar of the things. It's a pragmatic idea of working together. You can't build a country on Pan-Africanism. You see, and the irony of it is mind-boggling. Museveni is not a Pan-Africanist. Museveni handed over our economy to foreigners. If you run through our country, every single sector that matters to the wananchi is run by foreigners. From the banking, we're now fighting with banks, by the way. They're closing our banks, bank accounts, without notifying their clients. Because majority of them are foreign-owned. Our coffee, our telecommunication, our infrastructures, everything, our gold, the people running them are foreigner. And you tell me that the guy in charge of this country is a Pan-Africanist. How do you build a country where foreigners are running the show, but on the top, you claim to be a Pan-Africanist? We're not in Somalia because of Pan-Africanism. In fact, not too long ago, the CDF of this country tweeted threatening the American ambassador that he's going to withdraw our troops from Somalia because he was hiding Bobi Wine. So that doesn't sound well in Pan-Africans, because it becomes very clear that we're in Somalia doing a job on behalf of the Americans. Because that's what Muhoozi was saying, that you see, if you continue hiding Bobi Wine, we're going to withdraw our troops in Somalia. Clearly, you can't turn around and say that's Pan-Africanism. Right? So there are a couple of things that I don't want to dwell on them so much. I took lots of notes. Maybe I should say a couple of things that really struck me about the meeting in Kyankwanzi. It is called National
Leadership Institute.
Which means it should be open to the entire country.
Nari.
Right? But Mesa Wariomus said other parties are free to actually also, I don't know whether they have to apply, I don't know where they have to go to be allowed to use that facility. And I guess when they are there, they'll also be allowed to wear UPDF uniforms with clearly marked UPDF. But remember, there are many Ugandans in jail for wearing UPDF uniforms when they're not soldiers.
On the streets.
You see? So we wait to see, I really think Mr. Wariomus was joking, that NUP would one day ask to hold an event in Kyankwanzi.
If they ask you, it will be allowed.
And they'll be allowed, and then they also have the privilege of wearing UPDF uniforms. But there's something bigger than just the contradiction that You know, you can arrest other people for supposedly wearing UPDF uniforms, but you can have civilians sort of wear them and have a good time and go for long walks, not within a facility, but, you know, enjoying the UPDF uniforms. You know, when you take members of a party for a party function, you would brand them in party colors. You know, it will be better for Emmanuel Dombo, you, Mr. Waremosi, to be there in yellow, because that's your party color, and you're there on behalf of under the auspices of your party. But you know why they dress them in uniforms? It's a sort of mental capture, a reminder that this is a military state. It's a military state, and you're here to be taken through what we do in the military. Order ya jeshi ni moja. Okay, so we're here to tell you what you're going to do. And the first symbolism of it is dressing them in military uniform. There's no reason as to why to dress them in military uniform. They're going to be in parliament in suits. So maybe they would have worn their suits. Maybe they would have worn their party colors. But there's no reason whatsoever as to why they should be dressed in UPDF uniform, except that, you know, you're introducing them to the country, that this is a military state, and welcome to the party which is in charge of the military, and you're going to be run like that. You see? Mm-hmm. So that was the first thing that struck me, and I think we've never had a better analysis of this, except us, you know, saying some people are in jail for wearing these uniforms, which is actually true, and then these guys are free to wear them whenever they want, right? But this is a better analysis for me, is that it's an indoctrination project, right, to tell you we are a military state. There's no justification whatsoever. You're not going to be in parliament in suits. Your party is not a party of military. Rather, you're going to be in parliament in suits. Your party doesn't wear military uniform. They need to wear military uniforms. Your party wears yellow. So the best understanding of this symbolism is that, you know, this is a military state. But there was much more that happened, especially in the terrain of symbolism. And now that one of the contenders for the position of speaker is here, and you actually gave her the window to sort of say a couple of things about her candidature, right? The contest is between the incumbent, Honorable Anita Among, and a close contender in Norbert Mao, right? And while they were there, they exchanged hot words, really insightful words that we could share. If you could allow me, I could break down some of the symbolism, because, you know, I'm a cultural studies major, and I tend to appreciate things which look ignorable. Anita Among tells us the speakership is a bedroom. And so visitors, Norbert Mao proudly said he's a guest. Guests should stay in the compound. They're not welcome to the bedroom. Now, the imagery there is really powerful, and I'd explain it a bit more, if you allow me. The bedroom signifies relaxation. After a long day, you relax. In fact, what we know the bedroom for is sort of, you know, a pleasure. One of the images that the bedroom, you know, conjures up is pleasure. It's lovemaking. It's at the end of the long day. Because you signal to pleasure, it means the people who are struggling who are contending to head one of the arms of government, not the third, not the second, but one of them, are actually seeing themselves as operating in a special pleasure, enjoyment. You see, and one of them says, I'm a guest. Also, that person is actually aspiring to become a speaker, which is head one of the other arms of government, but he sees himself as a visitor to a special power. You see, and then he goes on and says, oh, the other one is a refugee, and then an adopted child, right? So if you have the imagery of adopted children, refugees, bedrooms, and compounds, you know, these two key contenders operate in a subordinate position. It shows you the power relation that the executive is going to share with these guys who are going to be in charge of parliament. Because ideally, parliament is supposed to check the exercise of the executive. It has to be an equally credentialed and confident independent unit to say what you're doing doesn't really all go well with the project, so we need to check you. But see how they describe themselves, these contenders, as a proud guest, as somebody enjoying the comfort of a bedroom. They're going to relax and enjoy. And in fact, at the end of this entire session, Museveni had a bullion van. You know, he had a bullion van. He was giving them 20 million. No, but maybe Chris got, and I think Honorable Wanyeta also got. Emmanuel Dombo is not MP, so maybe he didn't get you 20 million. But you see, Museveni had a bullion van. You see, carrying on the imagery of pleasure and bedrooms and relaxation. So this is how our NRMPs think about Parliament.
But Yusuf, I really want, I'm sorry to interject here. If you follow these discussions, in your view as an analyst, you should be able to understand where this imagery comes from and where it is pointing.
Absolutely.
I mean, I would rather that you have the understanding from the perspective of the people who are saying whatever they're saying. I mean, if you ever engaged Mao on anything, I mean, his brilliance would surprise you. So he respond using whatever language he can. But I suggest that really the intention of the word bedroom is not the interpretation you are giving it.
I just qualified it as it signified so many things within the same space.
But I mean, the issue of pleasure
was to do with the restriction, how far you can go
in somebody's party, for instance.
Not what you do there.
There could be other really equally wonderful terminologies. You could talk about, say, living room, where people meet and discuss.
But would you say the exchange between Mao and Among is the summary of that conference for 90 days?
Now,
as an analyst.
No. I said no. You gotta have to protect me on this. There are a couple of there are highlights of this engagement. There are highlights, and one of the highlights that preoccupied us in the media is the exchange between Norbert Mao and the current Speaker of Parliament. And to be honest, by the way, Norbert Mao enters a cooperation agreement with the NRM on the understanding that he's going to negotiate with Mr. Museveni on a transition. So they have an MOU where those are the parameters that he used to convince country and his party members. That is what he's taking him to in the NRM. So which means he goes in NRM with the support of his party as an independent and credentialed member. But to reach there and proudly call himself a guest, I can tell you, members of his party who are not yet into the NRM fold were bitter with that kind of self-description. You see, so I'm just saying.
He's not a member of NRM.
Let me speak to an equal academic, Professor Valinua. You see, in cultural studies, there are things that tend to be ignored. They are ignorable. The symbolism of a uniform. These MPs and then members.
Okay, all the other issues, I'm okay with you.
They seem to be.
My dispute is the issue of the interpretation of the word bedroom. Because the word bedroom was used in the sense that, fine, you are not part of us. You're not part of this family. Maybe you can stay in the compound in the sitting room, but you cannot go like the parent would go and say, come here in the bedroom, and we discuss this. And that was the context. But you see, when we are here, when you are here on national TV, and we take it to issues of pleasure, then really I think that, to me, that's what I'm saying. That interpretation, that imagery should not be in that sense.
Okay.
The rest is fine.
Let me try to extend the imagery a little more.
Yes.
I'm going to carry on with the imagery of the bedroom, especially signifying to pleasure. In the colonial period, when the colonial government saw an individual within the public who was very agile, very articulate, or community mobilizing, they invited him to join the Ideological. The idea of inviting you to the Ideological was to buy you into a soft life, so that you forget about the Wananchi. And I can tell you, Prof, Museveni has actually run this parliament as the Ideological was run. It's an invitation to strugglers. These people are some of the best in this country. The people in the NRM are some of those who have proved to be eloquent and articulate and the community mobilizers. So they are bought into a soft life. So the soft life is what you saw at the conclusion of this meeting. 20 million each. You are bruised during the election cycle, so you need to get some money. So the imagery of pleasure doesn't even just stop there. It also has a historical precedent. But my wonderful friend, Robert Sermaga, wrote a very insightful piece in the Monitor where he said, Parliament is the bribe. Not the money that is normally given exchanging hands, but the institution itself. Because you see, He gave them 100 million. But as soon as they enter into that house, they receive another 300 to buy them cars. And then banks are already marauding around them, offering them billions of loans in billions. So ideally, what is being offered to these articulate individuals from among us is comfort, is relaxation, just as the colonial government did. The colonial government looked at the men who organized the Bataka protests in the 1940s, and they invited them to join the Ideological. The entire idea was to buy them into soft life so that they forget the struggle. And I can guarantee you, Timothy, and I think Prof will agree with me on this one, that if you ignore the imagery of the bedroom and its signals of pleasure and relaxation, you miss the entire historical trajectory of our parliaments. Our parliaments are not really meant as spaces of debate and discussion. In that parliament, it's not the best arguments that take the day. No, it's not the best arguments. Our president told us quite proudly that as long as they can wake up and vote. Proudly. So you see, you could actually see the imagery of the bedroom. They can be sleeping in the bedroom and then wake up and vote.
Allow me to say this. Yeah. When you follow the historical events, political events in this country, you'll find that after ruling us for 63 years, how many years?
63.
63, they say go and vote. You are telling a group of people, groups with kingdoms to go and vote. Okay? And, I mean, where is the precedent? Where is the precedent? So we vote, DP wins, the British Anglicans, the DP winning was a Catholic group. It won't work. But you are telling people who have never elected, you are telling people who have got kingdoms to go and elect. That's why the elections could not succeed, because you cannot hold an election in Uganda. So we try the parliament. Whom are you telling to go to parliament? Whom are you telling to go to parliament? What do we understand by parliament as a typically British institution? What do you understand by parliament when you look at, for instance, what is happening in the US with their Congress? A little different from the parliamentary system of government. But to me, we've not yet absorbed it. We've not yet absorbed that. So when you look
I think you're making my point.
Yeah, I'm making a point, yes.
You're making my point.
So when the politicians who are smarter, because the essence of politics and elections is to hold on to power. I'm not going to be a politician and let you have the power. No, why should I let you? Otherwise, why am I contesting in an election? So if I am smarter than you in that context, what I should hear you saying as an analyst is, can we train our parliamentarians into what their roles are so that they don't simply look at it as something to go to and enjoy in parliament? Because I believe the majority of, a very large number of people go there because, well, I'm going to get 30 million shillings a month and get the payments and get a car. It's a good attraction if I can get in there. But yes, we have challenges as a country. And I would rather think that you as an analyst, you should see what is that we need to do to improve our democracy, to improve our parliamentarism,
But Professor, I hope you realize that that's not the conversation in Kyankwanzi. It's not about what we should do, sort of to decolonize ourselves.
You said it.
From the British you
said it rightly. Indoctrinate. Yeah, there is no party that does not indoctrinate its members. Otherwise, there's no meaning to ideology.
Or faith.
It has no meaning to ideology. To ideology. If you want to be part of me, you must believe in me. And that's indoctrination. And that's what NRM goes to do in Kyankwanzi. It does not go to have a party for the nation, no. It goes to build into the members the idea that, yes, you are part of NRM, and these are the rules of the game.
Timothy.
We'll let him finish. I'm going to come to you. Please conclude.
I don't know, you're going to comment on this one. Prof said many things, and I think at some point he contradicted himself. Because what is happening in Parliament is not changing course, it's not abandoning the colonial structure. In fact, our president thrives in that environment. he sees these MPs as workers to sort of perpetuate what he believes in. He's not inviting them to that space so they can debate ideas of improving the country. It is to tell them what they have to do. And I'm saying that is continuity of the colonial model, which buys the best from amongst us into a soft life. And you can see it from his gestures and from his words to remind them that all you've come to do is to vote, nothing more. All you've come to do is to vote. And then you have one of the both the two key contenders of the position of heading that institution proudly carrying on with that language to say he's told us to.
Timothy, I want to say, sorry, yeah, I mean, I feel, allow me to say this. This country, the LC1, the RC system, was the first introduction to democratization of this country. It hasn't worked very well, but was the first. And what has it done? It has made everybody think that they can be elected. It's a poor system.
Thank you. Yusuf, please conclude so that I can bring in Honorable Dombo and we close the first half.
I mean, I was happy that Prof was giving me information, but
yes.
I think we lose the point that, you know, the parliament we have nowadays is a parliament of eating and enjoyment. This is why, and I say this with all honesty, that I think every analyst, including members on this panel, agree that we don't need to have such a huge parliament. We don't need to have such a huge parliament. But why do we have a huge parliament? Because it serves the political function. It's not growing bigger just for the sake of growing bigger. It serves the political function that it buys the activist. You see, I have been approached to stand for parliament because people think I'm articulate and I can articulate ideas. But I constantly say that parliament is not short of good opinions. That parliament is not short of good ideas. So for me to join is to silence me. The good ideas in that house have been silenced. I'm telling you, everybody in that parliament, or if given the chance to run this country under a different ethic, they can do better than Yoweri Museveni. But once you enter into the parliament, there's no, I mean, the people here, PhD, Emmanuel Dombo, wonderful professor, these are wonderful Ugandans. They could run this country differently, but not under the sort of dispensation in which parliament invites us. So it continues to grow bigger and bigger. I'm sure in the next round, if Museveni is still president, we'll be knocking 600. The reason is it serves the political function that whoever might perhaps organize revolutionary action is crafted into the system and they're brought into silence. I think I'll stop on that.
Thank you. Honorable Dombo, you had a response before I read some messages.
Well, I just wanted to, I've observed my brother Seru Nkuma, and I've been with him on a number of talk shows. But when you hear him discuss, you just see a lot of ideological disorientation. And he becomes a very good candidate himself for Kyankwanzi. And
you want me quiet?
Many of these researchers, they criticize without belonging, even when they have an opportunity to go and see, and then come out and tell the people.
Okay. Because
President Museveni told us, when I had just gone to Kyankwanzi, when I joined Parliament, people asked us, what new thing have you learned there? And President Museveni asked the Christians and Muslims, he said, you go to the church and mosques every Friday, others pray 5 times a day. What new things do you go to learn there? You go to repeat the same catechism, you repeat the grace of God, the Lord's Prayer every Sunday. There is no new Bible, there is no new faith, there is no new hadith. It is the same old hadith. But the faith requires that in order to train our people, in order to belong, that we continually give them the lecture on the things, even him. I don't know whether are you a Catholic? Perhaps when you go to the church.
He goes to the mosque.
He goes to the mosque. Yusuf are also Christians. I thought even in the Bible there is Yusuf. So even when he goes to the Muslim community, he did not author the Quran. He believes in Allah. But he goes there to read what other people wrote. But progressively, this shapes the way we reason, the way we think. But that should not make it because the other is better or this is on this. And so are the organizations. The NRM has an ideology. It has to train its people repeatedly so that they can get embedded in the thinking and the philosophy of the organization so that progressively it can shape our understanding and our reasoning.
Okay. Let me read some feedback that has come through. Kyankwanzi was designed to make party discipline the vehicle for the NRM to define it and its national interests. The 12th Parliament will be defined by whether the definition of holding the MPs face-to-face, budget taxes, service delivery, anger the seven-term debate, with independence in the fold. The Speaker Mong says that the ayes will have the caucus and its numbers. The question is whether new MPs see voters as people or as tickets to get them there. Okay. Johnson in Arua says, thank you for the show. Please ask Honorable Dombo and the Honorable Minister. The UPDF uniform is a National Army uniform, not an NRM uniform. Why would the NRM elected MPs put it on during the retreat? Will the other political parties, for example, who asked for permission to go there, put on the same uniforms? Okay. Lastly but not least, good evening, Timothy. Thank you for the show. A retreat for a corporate body is very vital for improving its business efficiency and effectiveness. I would like to implore the next leadership of Parliament to have some retreats for all members of Parliament in order for them to have continuous interactions, engagements with experts on the economy, security, policy, media, so that they make informed decisions about our country. This is George, a former MP for Lamo constituency. Finally, good evening, Timothy and the panelists. Thank you for the show. Honorable Chris said something that for us to read, but he just confirmed to us that he he didn't know that section of the UPDF Act. The law is there for all of us. What answers the law? And finally, he says he might have changed it. Good, he read it, and we all understand what he's saying. Okay, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be spending a lot of time.
When you don't use Momo, you get insulted by strangers. Save yourself from insults. Use the Momo app or dial *165*3# to pay and enjoy zero charges below 5K. That's the power of Momo.
It's back, bigger, and with more business opportunities. It's the Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo, Poate 2026, Uganda's flagship tourism event. Poate 2026 will take place from the 21st to the 23rd of May 2026 at the Speak Resort Convention Center, Munyonyo, under the theme Wanderlust. It's your time to thrive. Yes, it's your time to tap into Uganda's renewed optimism and tourism growth. Tourism stakeholders, travel trade partners, and tourism enthusiasts will be part of the Poate 2026. Come and network with like-minded people and unlock new business opportunities. To participate, register at www.poate.co.ug. Poate 2026 is brought to you by Uganda Tourism Board and partners.
The government's core mandate is to maintain law and order, safeguard citizens' rights, and provide essential public services.
Remember, one of the pillars of the roadmap is innovation and entrepreneurship.
There has been this question of how are you protecting our indigenous seed?
It's going to be a tall project that answers somebody's question.
The Front Bench has brought you insightful discussions on governance, security, healthcare, justice, and commerce.
When you go through this complicated procedure, involve the lawyers, you bring the case against him, the judge will hear you out and pass judgment, and you're out of court in record time.
We remain committed to keeping you informed and engaged on key national matters.
So these are huge, these are powerful organizations which now Uganda chairs. Why don't you come together?
If we haven't migrated to the e-card because of various reasons, including that not all the people of Uganda have smartphones.
You can sit in your house, apply for a passport.
If you have a Ugandan who has a successful logistics firm in the US, it means he can come to Uganda and do a lot more.
Every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with me, Jethro Kasaiji, your interface with the government only on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Welcome back from that quick break here on here on Behind the Headlines. Let's get into the conversation here. Someone sends a message and says, "Greetings, Timothy. The penal section of this UPDF Act that the Honorable Minister read does not waiver the demand of Section 38(2). The law must be interpreted as a whole and not picked and used as scriptures of Bible." Okay, very interesting there. Let's get to the conversation that is here. Honorable Minister, the President was very emphatic, especially to the incoming members of Parliament, about corruption. What different thing is going to be done about corruption?
Okay, let me first...
After he speaks, he gives 20 million. So
let me first clarify that the 12th Parliament will not and cannot amend the Constitution to extend its life to 7 years. If they amended the Constitution, then it would be the 13th Parliament.
It will not be beneficiaries.
Yes, because we have been voted with a social contract with the people of 5 years, and the court has pronounced itself on that matter. So people should not be anxious whether we are going to go to Parliament and extend our life to 7 years. Now, the issue of corruption, like we have always said, NRM, one of the NRM key policies is zero tolerance to corruption. And that is why corruption is an issue. It's an issue because the NRM made it an issue by putting in place policies and legislations, by putting in place institutions with the mandate of fighting corruption, and so forth and so forth. Sometimes when you hear people talk about corruption, it's as if corruption began with the coming of NRM. No, we have made it an issue as NRM, and that's why it's talked about. When you read the 18 points Idi Amin gave why he overthrew Obote, one of the points was fighting corruption, if you read. So meaning corruption is an age-old problem which has been there. So now there is a renewed fight against corruption, and the president himself is leading the fight, and that's why he was very emphatic, saying in this Sanja, we are not going to tolerate corruption, and with also emphasis on Parliament. Because he had complained earlier on, it was at the function in Kororo, that he has been getting information, but he has been doubting, but he has now confirmed there are forms of corruption within Parliament. And that's why at the Ngoma sitting, the last day, he was saying he does not want to hear or see corruption in Parliament. Because I think committees and the corruption tendencies have been creeping into Parliament. So your question is this different from what we have seen in the past? And my answer is yes.
What is different?
So first of all, a clear warning and guidance and counseling has been given to the members of Parliament, because a culture or a behavior had come in where the members of Parliament through committees would start negotiating with the members of the executive that before they pass the budget, maybe a cut be made. And you remember, even the president has been emphatically saying, I arrested some members of Parliament who were recorded and taken to Luzira. So I am sure the members of Parliament will take heed, and they may not get tempted when they sit on the committees to probably behave like some of the members of Parliament have behaved. We shall discuss internally as a party and the government, see maybe how to support the members of parliament. Like there is the idea of constituency development fund. We didn't discuss it much in Kyankwanzi, but we used to have a CDF, constituency development fund, which Honorable Domba and I, when we sat on the commission, we put it on hold for reasons which I don't have time to go into. But one idea we are like to bring maybe to bring it back, because the problem why members of parliament get into these challenges, the times they carry the burdens of the constituency, and there is a need for civic education for the population out there to understand what the roles and responsibilities of an MOP are. The problem MOPs face is that you find there are times of constructing roads, buying ambulances, repairing schools, functions which ordinarily belong to government. The members of parliament carry those burdens, and then there is pressure for you to look for money and so forth. So I think the question the president was giving was that, no, and that was the training members of parliament were having. What is expected of a member of parliament? What are the do's and don'ts? So one of the benefits from this engagement and the explicit and clear guidance by the president on corruption is that I am hopeful that the members of parliament will not indulge in some of those negative practices which had crept in. But also we discussed a lot to do with the recruitment, for instance, in the civil service, appointment of different public servants. Like you, I think you are the one who mentioned the issue of these commissions, like Public Service Commission, Health Service Commission, the Human Rights Commission. What kind of Ugandans should be appointed to these positions? We had a lengthy discussion on the functioning of the district service commissions. We have information that many of them are selling jobs in the districts to get recruited, to get shortlisted, interviewed, and recruited by a district service commission. Ugandans pay money. So attention is going to be put on some of those areas. There was a suggestion that we should even change the legislation with respect, for instance, on how the district service commissions are constituted, because currently the executive of the district proposes names. Okay, the chairperson of the district brings the names, discuss the executive, they are brought to the council, approved, then they come to the Public Service Commission for endorsement, and then they go and work. Then you find maybe the political leaders in the district, because they are the originators of the names. When it comes to recruitment, they are saying, recruit so and so, recruit so and so. So those are some of the loopholes we're discussing, which we are going to tackle through amendment of laws, or even writing new laws, but also being strict in implementing and enforcing some of the existing laws. But fighting corruption cannot be left to the president alone or us who hold the offices. It's a responsibility which every Ugandan, in whatever space you occupy, you must carry out your responsibility. Let me give you an example. It is unlawful to overload a bus for public transport, for instance. But you find some bus drivers and conductors, he buys a new vision, you monitor newspaper, puts in money, and because he has overloaded the bus, he reaches where traffic police is, and he gets the, hey, officer have bought you a newspaper, and wants to bribe the police officer. So whom do you blame? Of course, if the police officer receives the money, that's unlawful. But even you, the bus driver, who has been corrupted, it said, let me corrupt the traffic officer. But usually people, when they discuss corruption, they look at us who are in the government, who hold the offices. Oh, government is corrupt, you officials, but even the citizens. So for us to successfully fight this devil of corruption, all of us who hold the offices, even you who doesn't hold the political office or any office, you have a responsibility. If you see cases of corruption, what have you done? Have you reported to the nearest authority or police? So what the president was announcing is a new drive to mobilize all Ugandans to play our part so that we can stamp out corruption, which is becoming a big problem in this country. And the corruption stretches from government to civil society to churches and faith-based institutions. It's a pervasive problem which we must tackle head-on. So the president has come out boldly to take the lead, but he was basically mobilizing all of us to do our part.
And I'm glad you said taking the lead, and that's where it should be.
Yes.
The president walked with the IGG, saying zero tolerance to corruption. The president was in Kololo and said he knew, he had received information, and he knew the people that were corrupt and he would deal with them.
Yes.
Nothing happened there. It has been year on year that nothing has been done, that 10 trillion shillings is lost due to corruption. The president even had the audacity to call out the 2 members of parliament that were there and ask them how they had gotten in prison, one of them being the lady that was there. When you say there is a renewed vigor to be able to fight corruption, why should citizens trust you?
By the way, it's not correct to say nothing has happened. Probably people usually want to hear maybe a big name which attracts news attention and so forth, but the institutions in place are functioning, whether the Inspectorate of Government, the Anti-Corruption Court, the Committees of Parliament, CID and Police, the PPDA, all these institutions, they are not seated.
Okay, Honorable Minister.
And the people are prosecuted.
Allow me bring it home.
Yes.
You're saying there are more than 10 institutions that are fighting corruption.
Yes.
As if we need all of them. But the Honorable Agnes Nandutu...
Not all their work may find itself in the media.
The Honorable Agnes Nandutu has just gone to jail.
Yes.
How many ministers, members of parliament, including the speaker, were implicated in the Mawati saga?
Well, there are many people who are named.
17.
Yes. But my understanding of the Iron Sheet saga was that government procured iron sheets for the people of Karamoja. And 2 ministers, Honorable Kitutu and Honorable Nandutu, were in charge of that docket. So they have iron sheets. They know the iron sheets are for Karamoja. Then I don't know what motivated them. Now their office starts calling ministers, saying the office of the Prime Minister has allocated this number of iron sheets to you to serve your constituency. Honorable Dombo has been in the parliament. Usually we are lobbying for services for our people. Schools are blown off by storms, churches are blown off. So ordinarily when you hear that, oh, the office of the Prime Minister has allocated this number of iron sheets, you will be attracted to pick them to go and deliver and give some service there, the roof, a school and so forth. So for me, the people who, now, so most of these ministers, vice president, speaker, fell into that category. Actually, they had also sent me an SMS that we have allocated 200 iron sheets for your constituency. But my God is a living God. Somehow, I was not attracted to those iron sheets. I didn't pick them. So, in my view, some of those are innocent. Like you are there, you are called, and you know the OPM has relief items. So for me, where I would find someone having a problem is, one, the ministers who were in charge of that docket, and instead of taking iron sheets to where they should be, chose to give them to colleagues. Number 2, if you received them knowing these are government iron sheets and use them for private work, say you roof a personal house or something personal. But if you picked them and you roof a government school, I wouldn't have a big, and you are able to account that I received. There would
be mitigation.
I received 500 iron sheets from OPM. I roofed these schools, and when you verify, I wouldn't find a problem.
Honorable,
so probably that's why.
Honorable Minister, you seem to
yes.
You seem to contradict yourself because
Where?
You're saying the people that hold the docket should be held culpable for diverting them, but you're also saying whoever receives them and uses them for public use should be okay.
Which? No, you see, first of all, these iron sheets were not written on for Karamoja, to think for office of the Prime Minister. Now, the office of the Prime Minister gives relief items. It has that. So
I think what the minister is saying, if I receive the unsheets, not knowing that they are not supposed to be mine, but I use them for personal reason rather than public, then you are culpable.
There you have
That's
an
what
issue.
he's saying.
For instance, if I received them and I roof my personal house in Kanungu, well knowing they are
roofed a goat shed.
Does it even a goat shed? I think the goat shed was for a community, for youth. If I remember what he explained, for the youth, for development. I think they roofed
What
that
project
angle.
was it running where goat sheds on this? What project was that for the community?
I think I remember a community youth project, a community socio-economic empowerment project for the youth, if I remember what he was saying. So, like I've said, where I would have an issue, and maybe that's why Honorable Nandutu has challenges that could not satisfy court, that she was a minister in charge of the docket. She knew the iron sheets are meant for Karamoja, but she instead gave the iron sheets to those who were not supposed to be beneficiaries. So there would be questions to answer. But I sympathize with her because of the very many, now she seems to be coming out alone. Then if, like I've said, if you receive the items knowing they are government property, but then you use them for personal gain or use them for personal project, there would have a problem. Otherwise, the others, and I think when the issue came to the surface, those were able to show where the iron sheets were, and those who still had them in the store returned them. Because I remember, like the writer Rebecca Kadaga was saying, there was a health center, I think, which had been blown off by a storm in Kamudi, and she got there in the sheets and roofed that health center. Would you call me a thief in such a situation? I don't think. So I hope I have explained it. So NRM stands for zero tolerance to corruption. But of course the challenge with fighting corruption is getting the evidence. So we have strengthened, for instance, the investigation part of the state. Because it's not enough to say you are corrupt. There must be credible evidence which you adduce and you are able to satisfy court for somebody to be successfully prosecuted.
But before that, yes. Timothy, fighting corruption is not very easy. Do you know why? Corruption is sweet and attractive. And along the way, if you don't become very firm, it can compromise the entire process. Because the benefits, the investigating officer can be compromised. The prosecuting person can be compromised. Even the presiding officer in a court can easily be compromised. And it is, the president has come up repeatedly. One time he was in parliament and he said, if I chose to arrest thieves in Uganda, I may have nobody to work with. And yesterday he told members of parliament that I know more. He didn't disclose what he knows. But he told them a lot happens, especially in the institution of parliament. And he told those people to refrain from getting close to corruption because there is a renewed effort, which the minister has been talking about. Progressively, in order to fight corruption, we need to strengthen the investigative arm of government. We need to strengthen the protection of the whistleblowers. We need to train, because now corruption was easy. Now people can wire money. You saw here the people who are working in the Ministry of Finance. Just by plugging a computer, they had wired a lot of money out of this country. And if you don't have people who are able to investigate and track such a thing, it may be something very difficult to fight. So that's one of the things. That's why in the meeting yesterday, we had the IGG's office make a presentation, but also calling on the responsibility of leaders under the leadership code. We have the chairperson of the tribunal, coming to talk to the members of parliament and reminding them their obligation, and also the IGG reminding them that they are supposed to conform to the leadership code, and she prayed that let her hope that members of parliament are not going to fall victims because the law is going to be harsh on them.
Thank you. Let me come to Professor Walunua. Professor, why, when you look at this animal called corruption, Honorable Domba said it's sweet and attractive. The Honorable Bariamunsi has also mentioned a few aspects of it. 10 trillion shillings disappearing in public funds. You also look at the president has numerously spoken about it. At what point does the NRM bite?
I think the weaknesses in the institutions which have been mentioned are things that need to be addressed. Doma says the investigation, the prosecution, all those are areas where corruption can take place.
But Professor Walunua, Lady Justice Irene Muliagonja said the corrupt hide behind the president. The president himself has said if the corrupt are stealing the money, as long as they're investing it here. So when you look at such statements, are we really willing to fight this animal, or it has become a form of governance?
I think if you had the president speak in Kyankwanzi, you feel he feels let down by the system, that the people he has nurtured, the people he has appointed are practicing corruption. And of course, it's true that as the then IG said, that at times when some people, the case of the members of parliament, for instance, was contentious. He found out, he got evidence that these MPs had been corrupt. They went to prison. Now, somebody was saying, Mr. President, you did wrong to get them out of the system. He said, no, there are alternative means of dispute resolution. And to him, he wanted to understand it far more and better so that he could now have means of addressing issues of corruption. But, you know, the corruption in this country, when you point it to the president, I think you're pointing to the wrong person. Look at the districts, for instance. He just talked about them in terms of giving jobs. I mean, so much money goes into this. That money, I mean, somebody wants a job as a clerk and pays 5 million shillings, money he may never get as a salary in the next 5 years. So what is the problem? The problem is that the people who have the means of controlling decisions are abusing their offices. And maybe the word to use is they feel they're untouchable. If somebody feels untouchable, yes, they'll go ahead and do it.
So wouldn't that be the place where the president comes in to weep? Because if he does, then don't you think things will be aligned?
Yeah, they should. They should.
Let me bring in the Honorable Lydia Wanyoto before
Timothy, just a brief one. Your name sounds as if you're a Christian, Timothy. I would believe so.
You want to write him a letter like Paul wrote to Timothy.
And in the Bible, we read about Jesus when he got those people who wanted to stone a woman who had fornicated to death. And Jesus told them that whoever has never done it should be the first one to throw the stone. Was Jesus condoning fornication?
No.
So, in fighting against corruption and teaching against it, when the president talked about the people and the way he has been managing the situation, some people have taken him to be soft. But Jesus was not being soft by reminding them on this. But it was a moral obligation to say, many of us can be culpable, but what is it that we must do that is good for mankind? So the president is an embodiment of the law, but also must bring the politics and the people together to understand the badness in corruption, but also to show there are better ways as we proceed forward and we build the country. So by him saying that, he was not condoning corruption, just as Jesus did not condone fornication, but was just a reminder to those in leadership.
You've told half of the story. He also told the lady, your sins have been forgiven. So he acted. Let me bring in the Honorable Lydia. Honorable Lydia Onyeto, I know I have been here with you, and I know your heart against corruption. Why is the NRM government? Why is corruption eluding the NRM government? And why are you not whipping this animal to death in 40 years plus?
My opinion about corruption is it has manifested in different ways, like from the last 15 or 10 years. And where we are entering the next set of government now, the next 5 years, we are entering the 12th parliament with corruption that is bordering impunity. Impunity. And yet we can avoid it because we have other African countries. Maybe some of us are different because of exposure. If you go to Zambia, the government there has been able to deal with corruption. If you're a public official, and recently even a minister, and you are caught culpable, your property that was worth the money you took or resources you took are sold to public auction, so that the money is taken back to the public. If you go to Zambia today, the story is different. And this has been led by the president, the current president himself. So the back ends with the head of state. You cannot talk about a cow, you cannot talk about the parish head of the parish development model. If the head of state starts the story and deals with the abuse of office, or, well, you know, corruption has to be defined so that people know that corruption is theft, you're a thief. But not giving it other names and making it look like nice, you have to give it the name it deserves. So Zambia is doing it, but this is the new government in Zambia. The head of state is also a herdsman, is called HH. Then Rwanda, of course, our neighbors, is doing it. You cannot take public funds in Rwanda and get away with it. You will not. And these are Africans like us. Tanzania has done it. It's begun more hard during the time of the late Magufuli. People lost jobs. Their assets were sold off, money put back to public coffers. There have been transfer of public servants. You cannot stay in an office for more than 3 years. That change of offices breaks the chain because theft of funds is a chain, even with IT. Somebody pushes this button and another one, it's like a pass over the button. So when you keep transferring staff, even with the same ranks to this ministry, to the other ministry, you break the habit or you break the colleaguism that is building the chain for corruption. What is corruption? It's taking away public resources that for individual benefit, and you're denying a service to the public. It's as simple as that. Taxpayers' money being put to personal use or wrong use. So deployment of people is so important. And we have an opportunity. We've just had an election. The NRM has been overwhelmingly voted. So we don't have anywhere to say there's going to be blackmail or blacklist. The president has an opportunity to deploy people who do not have a history or even a perception. Because he has been telling us, so he has talked enough, you have talked enough, it's time for action. We want to see in May, June, faces that are perceived not to be greedy, not to be weak in terms of taking what's not theirs, and we see how the 5 years roll. But if we go to see the same faces, whether there is evidence or not, but perception is so important in governance. It is very important. But fortunately for us, our president has intelligence reports. So he has to take that hard decision. He has talked tough in Kyankwanzi. We'll be happy to see action in June because that opportunity is there. He's not lacking people. We've seen so many strong people coming up with mandate from the communities, but also out there. And the head of public service came to make a presentation. She also decried corruption and she gave options where we can break the chain of how public resources are being put to waste and to abuse. If you go to Zambia, I've talked about Zambia, I've talked about Tanzania, I've talked about Rwanda. So we are not an island. It can be done in Uganda.
What is stopping us?
It is at the back end with the leadership. The president has an opportunity to deploy Ugandans that can change the face and tilt the story of abuse of public office and public resources.
Yeah, but
because it is there. It is there, and we should not wish it away. We should not even give it a nice name. Because why I'm speaking like this is that, yes, we have laws, we have 10 institutions that deal with the corruption. But you see, corruption has both the legal and the political decision. So let him do his part
of the
politics, then the balance will be done by the law. Because people are smart. They are able to dodge the law. Or they are able, like you've heard, someone can buy the legal process, they can buy off the process of recruitment, they can buy off their colleagues. Sometimes you're shy. You've heard about the small fish and the big fish. Let's start with the June decision of deployments. Then along the way, we will see whether the law, because corruption is a moral issue. Yes. It's also give me a chance. Yeah. Corruption is a moral issue. It's also a perception issue. There is a limit where the law can start, and it's very easy to get away with the law. That's what I can tell you for free.
Thank you.
Yeah, Timothy, quick comment. In accounting, when an auditor gets into an organization and realizes that this person has not been on leave for a very long time, this auditor has not changed for a very long time, that auditor starts suspecting that there may be something going wrong. It may have nothing to do with the head of the organization, but systems can be abused out of the, like she has said, these are moral issues on some individuals. There is a lot of corruption that will go on, not that the politicians don't want to see it or don't want to do anything about it, but they can't see it. So the corruption which the president is talking about, which he sees, is that one involving public officers, which is out there in the open.
Okay. Yeah. Yusuf, let me come to you. You've had the Honorable Lydia when you're talking about it. All these things are spoken about, Lady Justice Mlia Gonja, the Honorable Agnes Nandutu there, and you've had Honorable Chris. When you see the president stand on that podium and say, do not get involved in corruption, and picks on those two members of parliament, and then says, don't be culpable by corruption, is he saying it to us? Is he meaning what he's saying? What should be understood by the public, especially on his willingness to fight corruption?
You know, I think we are a country of pretensions. You know, I said elsewhere that we have sort of mutually agreed to pretend to live in a different universe. We tend to take these utterances for what they are. I mean, the beginning part, Timothy, Museveni has been president for 40 years. You see, what he failed to do when he was 50, what he failed to do when he was 60 or 70, he's not going to do it in the evening of his life. So when we have these conversations, somebody might get away with the assumption that we are looking at a president who has been in power for the last 2 years or for the last 5 years. This is 40 years of being president. I like the way you frame the questions you ask me. You say things like, you've listened to Chris, you've listened to like I'm supposed to comment on all of that. There's the way you frame these questions. But, you know, listening to Chris and Emmanuel Dombo, they present corruption as a technical challenge. I think Lydia was fair when she says it's both legal and political. And Lydia cryptically said it belongs to the leadership. He basically wanted to say somebody has to deal with this thing, otherwise somebody is living on the job. Because for 40 years, Parliament at even one time sanctioned a minister. That man is still Museveni's close friend, he's a minister. You see, Parliament said this man should be fired because he's clearly corrupt. Corruption is purely a political matter. It's purely politics. And I think Lydia was fair when she said it's a perceptional matter. It's clearly political. And the examples Lydia gave us, Zambia. Zambia has had, I think, 4 presidents, as Museveni has been president through this time. So Zambia has seen 4 presidents. When you mentioned John Pombe Magufuli, he was successful in dealing with corruption because he was president and he took decisions as president. The unfortunate bit for us is that, you know, Chinua Achebe has this in his book, Things Fall Apart, that when Mother Bird is eating, the young ones watch its mouth. It goes all the way to the top. Our friend Andrew Mwenda used to say that, you see, when border riders see Museveni driving through term limits and age limits, they also drive through traffic lights. Because you see, if the man on top drives through term limits and age limits, why can't they drive through traffic lights? When mother bird is eating, the young ones watch its mouth. And I can tell you, corruption cultures, it becomes a way of doing things. It becomes a lifestyle. In fact, in this country, to be not corrupt is to be stupid. In fact, it is dangerous not to be corrupt than to be corrupt. And one of the most interesting examples is a man called Twaha Kagabo. He was a newcomer to the outgoing parliament. And when I think Museveni bribed the MPs, I think, to pass a budget with 40 million, they were instructed to return the 40 million. You see, Museveni has had a pattern of buying our MPs whenever he wants a thing passed with 5 million, with 25, with 40, and then later 70. So Twaha Kagabo, because he was not a poor man when he joined parliament, so he picked the 40 million and returned it to parliament, and it actually burned his fingers, because he said, he gave an interview to the New Vision where he said, when he reached parliament with the 40 million, they were asking him, where did you get it from? So this money landed into my account without knowing where it came from. And surely everybody had gotten this money. But it was wise not to return it. So on the one hand, corruption is a purely political matter. On the other, it is incentivized. Our country incentivizes corruption. You see, it is embedded in our systems that you need to have a political leadership which is strong enough to remove the incentive. The example is very interesting. You see, when we went neoliberal in this country, when we embraced neoliberalism in the 1990s, one of the things we did is you find somebody who works in a public facility at the same time being an investor in the same sector. So you find somebody employed at Mlago but can freely open a clinic. You find somebody who works in the Ministry of Education but is also a private investor in a school. You find people who are in UPDF and Uganda Police, they're in charge of private security companies. You see, so the incentive for them to make sure their businesses work is way high. Like, we have had this sort of, I think there's a gap, we have had these incentives which incentivize you to sort of abuse the public for the benefit of the private. You see, we have another law in this country. In the 1990s, when people stood for CA, for you to stand for CA, you had to declare leave of absence, and then you can stand. If you lost, you'll just come back to your job. Now, the Parliamentary Act, which was amended, I think, in 2005, requires that you resign your job. And then you have to go to Parliament, right? So when you resign your job, you've actually sort of declared hostility towards your job. So you need to find a new means of livelihood. So you have to fight blood and tears to go to Parliament. This is why, at the very beginning, nowadays I think it's between 900 million and 3 billion to enter Parliament. I don't know how much Minister Wariomonsi had to part with.
I am yet to compute.
To return to Parliament. It's between 900 million
and 3 billion.
And 3 billion. Maybe it could even be much more. Now, that MP has already been bribed by the amount of money spent to enter this thing. His heart is in a weak position because he's going to get another livelihood to recoup the money he spent in the electoral cycle. This is why Museveni even understands that, because Museveni thrives on corruption. It's the engine that drives the system. So he starts by giving them, these cards. So he gave them 20 when they went to Kyankwanzi, promising them another 80, which will come. But also there's lots of packs coming to their pockets. There are all these incentives for corruption. It's not just morally attractive. Our system here incentivizes it. And on the other hand, by the way, it is incentivized everywhere. It's not just in Uganda. Like, everywhere you have sort of a capitalist modernity where we have privatization of public institutions. Corruption is rife everywhere. The difference in those spaces is that the political leadership takes the front, take decisions to deal with it. What we have in this country is that Museveni has failed. Because you see, Museveni belongs to the old group of politicians who thrived on machinations, you know? You buy off this one, you promise this one a thing, you promise this one something, you do that to this one, and then you play these different institutions. And he has been quite successful. So you play the Catholic Church, you sort of find a way of bribing the Baganda, You bribe the Catholic Church with the vehicles, religious leaders with vehicles. He wanted to bribe our king in Usoga with a job. So you find a way of bribing different sectors so that to thrive. Now that's the old way of doing politics. The problem for us is that he's the man who is still there. You see, he can make all these bombastic pronouncements, but there's nothing in there.
You mean when he gifts the bishop with a vehicle?
It is a bribe. It's a bribe. Just the way he gives an MP 300
million. He's bribing the bishop to do what?
Just the way he gives an MP 300 million for a car. It's a bribe. Just the way he gave you guys the 20 million and 100.
It's not him who gives us, the government. Which there is a transport policy in the civil service that once you work for government, you are facilitated with the transport.
Yeah.
The mode in the parliament happens to be that you are given money to buy a vehicle.
Yeah, exactly. I'm saying
that's not the bribe.
That's the point I'm making.
Which
Like
point?
corruption in this country
As you conclude,
has been entered into the system. It has technical language. What did you call it? A transport policy. It has technical language. It is romanticized.
So when a LOC3 chairman is given a motorcycle, he has been bribed.
And I'm telling you, we stop focusing on the LOC3 individuals, whistleblowers. Those people don't matter in the fight against corruption. Corruption cultures. You see, Uganda ekyenyanja kitandikira ku mutwe okuvunda. Kasita omutwe guvunda ebyawansi nga bikola ki? They fall in line. So these are the wananchi who are way below.
So in your view, how should the member of parliament reach out to his constituents?
How did he stand in the first place?
He was not an MOP.
Why did they stand? If they manage, so why can't they reach their constituents?
He's now doing a public service.
They were able to stand. How did they manage to stand? Why did they even stand in the first place if they couldn't do the job? You see, because you make it becomes so funny. You see how corruption has been sort of romanticized.
Is the parliamentary work private work? It's not private work.
It's made to look like, is a technical language for it.
Okay.
And I think Minister Mariamus has been quite successful in technicalizing corruption. And I think this is the problem we fall into when we say empower the whistleblowers, empower this office, empower this office. And Lydia Wanyota, I should commend her this time. I rarely commend her for saying this entire system can be corrupted. A short one on the Mabati saga, right? Mm-hmm. You see how corruption cultures, I think all of us here know how the 16 who got away with we know what they did. We know what they did. But
what did they do?
We know what they did. We know.
No, I don't know.
Wanyota said it without mentioning name. He said the prosecution can be corrupted, investigation can be corrupted, the judicial system can be corrupted. That's in a nutshell is what they did, and they are able to do that.
So whom did they corrupt?
No, prosecution.
Their files were
Wanyota was cryptic, and I was sticking with Wanyota's language. Prosecution, investigation, they can be corrupted. That entire system, and that corruption thrives only because the political establishment has allowed it to thrive.
Okay, thank you, Yusuf. Comment from Honorable Dombo so that I can read some messages here.
Timothy, Banaseru Nkuma talks as if nothing has been done about the fight against corruption. Just go and do a research and find out how many public servants have been incarcerated. Some of them dying in prison, serving sentence. Right now, a former minister has just been put in prison. And we are still asking, the president took political action by reshuffling his cabinet and is putting some people aside. It is during these 40 years that all these laws against corruption have been enacted and consciousness has been brought up. And progressively, the war on corruption is on. What we should do progressively, the president is at times is in a very tricky position, and he has publicly come up to say some of these things. How many times have Ugandans themselves come to plead for their natives when their children have been caught in corruption? And to what extent should the president go or not go when at times he leaves the judiciary to proceed the way they should? But yesterday he officially came up and said that some people apologized and they agreed to become whistleblowers or witnesses, or helping government to understand how they were doing it. Progressively, I'm very sure that now that Honorable Wanyoto has gone to Parliament, and he was one of the people in Kyankwanzi, she's going to team up with her colleagues so that they follow the law, they put government to account, and at times ask the hard questions to those in power so that they can answer why certain things haven't happened the way they should. That is what is called oversight, because they oversight everybody, including the president.
Okay. Yeah, but a quick comment. But Honorable Dombo, you see what has happened in this country as Museveni has been fighting over the 40 years. The figure has been rising also. So from 2 trillion to 5. Okay. Now we are 10.
Please allow me to read some messages that have come through. Good evening, Timothy.
As
Thank
the
you for
economy
the show.
grows.
Let the minister explain why they have not prosecuted PDM and Emyoga fraudsters across the country. Why has the president been approving false claims for tea leaf projects and fraudsters in Chigezi? This is Andrew in Kisoro. He says the NRM government lacks the will to fight corruption because it's the main pillar of existence, according to Andrew. Okay. Greetings, thank you for the program. Corruption only will end if Ugandans get minimum wage. If Ugandans get the access to quality education, government schools are renovated well. If all Ugandans can get access to quality medical care, okay? Good evening, Timothy. I am Peter from Iganga. Honorable Dombo has put it straight by making reference to the Bible and the Quran. What rift most of those places is indoctrination. Similar indoctrination that happens in Kyankwanzi. But also I want to correct the Honorable Dombo. Jesus told the woman to sin no more. But here we have seen the same faces sinning even more. It left them to go. Peter. Ruben in Arua says, according to my opinion, the uniform is meant for the purpose of the NRM MPs retreating in Kyankwanzi, to create the ruling president, because he is in charge of the nation and everything. I therefore have no questions over that. This is Ruben. Finally, one more here that comes in. Is the UPDF now belonging to the NRM? Did it leave the principal agenda of non-partisan? If so, all the people who were in Kyankwanzi should be arrested and join the NUP foot soldiers. So I really see nothing good about the 12th Parliament. This is Timothy in Chikoni.
By putting on the uniform, we see it's no good.
So I'm going to ask parting shots from all of us, and I'll start with Yusuf. I'll go to Honorable Lydia.
Now they began with you. Are you happy?
Honorable Dombo, Professor Waswa, and then finally the Honorable Minister.
Nothing happens in a vacuum. I should tell you why they began with me, so that whatever I say, you guys are able to shut it down. Because if it was the other way around, I would shut down whatever you guys would say without me coming back.
We can't win, eh?
I'm happy for you to continue like that.
Let's finish it this way. Yusuf, please, your parting shots.
You invited us here to talk about Kyankwanzi, and I'll tell you, with all honesty, Kyankwanzi was very eliminated. It's a signal into the contradictions of Museveni's government. It's a signal into what we should expect in the next 5 years, right? Although for me, I am assuming that Museveni is going to be thinking about the transition a bit more than continuing business as usual. I don't know how much time they devoted to discussing the transition, because it's really an aiding the old president. And as this country still stands, the office of the president is the only office which has life in it. All the others are subordinate to this office. If they are not dead, they are subordinate to this office. And I worry, and I keep telling you, I worry for this country more of the time not to discuss the transition, right? Because for me, I stopped asking Museveni to deliver on anything, whether it is corruption or education or public health. 40 years is good enough. It's good enough. It's time to first give him our thank yous and say you've done what you could. Whatever you failed, it is okay. You've been forgiven. So for me, the only thing that I'm demanding from Mr. Museveni and his team in Kyankwanzi is to fast track the question of transition. It's the only thing that this country demands of him.
Okay.
With everything else, he can do as he pleases.
Honorable Lydia Onyoto.
I was lucky to be in Kyankwanzi from the first day. I reported on Tuesday 7th, and I was among the last ones to leave today because I also went for the last activity. I went for the range. But I was very keen to listen to the messages of the president, because there's what they call intent of the leader, of the principal. It's a security language. And I listened to him very well. We joined the 12th Parliament clearly understanding what the president's intentions are, and it's in our interest that we live the expectations of the public. Let's do better. I think I want to really say we can do better. We will be able to struggle to align the expectations of the people. We have a manifesto to deliver, and we hope that the public can trust us and support us to deliver to the expectations, but also to the intent of the president. Corruption can be minimized. I cannot say it can be erased, but we can minimize, and we deal with impunity. We now have people that can really, given a chance, they can run away with the entire 82 trillion of the budget, even the one that we were meant to pay the loans, to clear the. So we have people that don't really care about the country or care about what the picture will be like, or they don't even care that they will be caught with their hands in the wrong place of the past. So those characters are there, and that's why laws exist, that's why rules exist, and that's why leadership exists, so that we can check. And like my parting shots will be finally, is that this time around, joining the 12th Parliament of the term of office, Muzai will be starting on the 12th of May. So we are beginning a new term, and with 71.6% of mandate, we don't have anybody else to check us. It is ourselves. So we better tighten up our sleeves and deliver to the big mandate that Ugandans have given us. For me, I'm ready, and coming from Kyankwanzi, I hope my other colleagues have come with the same spirit, that nobody is going to check us except ourselves, and that we have an opportunity to deliver the expectation of the people. We have a manifesto, and we have a new term beginning on the 12th of May by taking oath of the president, then the rest of us follow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Dombo.
Timothy, when you read this section 17, subsection 2, the duties of a citizen, it says it is the duty of all able-bodied citizens to undergo military training for the defense of this Constitution and protection of the territorial integrity of Uganda whenever called upon to do so. And the state shall ensure that facilities are available for such training. When members of parliament go to parliament, they should find out from government how this is going to be facilitated and enabled through legislation. And finally, Timothy, there was something that was discussed in Kyankwanzi, which I would beg that in the future when you get time, you would make it a subject matter for consideration, and this is the growth of the Ugandan GDP from the current 68-point-something billion to the 500 billion GDP economy in about
10 years to come.
In about 20 years.
Less than 20.
So, actually less. So, a lot of papers were presented by the Minister of Finance, how this is going to be done, the enablers, and the Ugandans should know that there is an effort by government to create jobs, to export products that have been value added, but also to reduce the cost of doing business. That is what will increase the jobs to the people of Uganda, to increase our GDP, and also improve our tax to GDP ratio. Uganda having the least in the region, and also collecting money and being unable to service our budget. We thank you, and we thank to our listeners. But also finally, the president, this morning, I saw the national treasurer of NRM putting in effect the decision of the president yesterday when he directed that the party should facilitate the members of parliament, paying them the 20 million. 20 million, somebody who has gotten through the rigors of politics to enable them settle in. This is something that happens internationally. People are given even bigger sums of money to enable them settle in their jobs. A party which thinks for their people and enables them to do this, this is the right thing to do. This is something that...
where did the money come from?
The money? From the party.
From the party?
Yeah.
You're 100% sure about that?
Because the national treasurer have just left her at the headquarters paying this money.
It is not our money.
I don't know whose money.
So
I wanted the people to know that each member of parliament who has been elected, these people here of NRM, every quarter the party has been receiving about 8.2 billion shillings because of contribution from government. Because our share of number has slightly gone up, I believe that starting the other financial year, the contribution from government to the NRM should be slightly more than 10 billion. This is something that should enable parties, whichever parties have worked hard and the numbers are good, that they facilitate their members, but also they ensure they train their members, and when they go to Kyankwanzi, we paid as a party. So he was asking whether other parties can also apply and pay. Let them apply, and they will be advised by the Leadership Institute on how best the facilities can be accessed.
Thank you. Professor Walunyo.
Yeah, thank you, Timothy. I think to me, Kyankwanzi was an opportunity for the new parliamentarians to understand NRM ideology. I have a private discussion with Yusuf on the issue of Pan-Africanism as an ideological position. But it's very important that they understand, as individuals and the party, how do we transform this country? How do we get rid of poverty? Because poverty is real in this country. The number of children in school is very small, and as long as it's small, this country cannot transform. So that concept of socio-economic transformation, the issue is how do we do it? The economy may be growing, GDP may be growing, but does not ensure economic development. Economic development is transformation of the individual. But the growth is happening, because where is the growth? You know, look at MTN, how much money goes through its system. But who benefits from it? You know, the ordinary people are the ones supporting that entire system. So I would request that the discipline that the president is calling upon members of parliament to have, and the knowledge of the ideology of the party, is something that they should study and see how to improve it. I mean, the ideology should not be static. If it is not working, can we improve it? Because ideology is simply how do you run government? How do you run a country? On what basis do you run a country? Okay. Dogma or pragmatism, which the president has perfected in terms of being pragmatic.
Thank you. Finally, the Honorable Minister.
3 things. 1, putting on UPDF uniform at Kyankwanzi. This is just a training gear for all those who go there for training. I have been there to facilitate many groups. The last one was the UDB staff, Uganda Development Bank. They were putting on that gear. So even like somebody asked, the members of the opposition asked to use Kyankwanzi for their orientation, they will still be offered that training gear, and people should not read too much into that. Actually, from the Ministry of National Guidance, we are working out on a concept, see whether we can not take all the youth in this country through Kyankwanzi training, so that we build them, not train them as NRM cadres, but on issues of patriotism and the ideological orientation for them to appreciate that they are Ugandans. Corruption. Again, the Bible has been referenced a lot. In the Bible, for those of you who are Christians, Judas Iscariot, who was one of the disciples of Jesus, was bribed with 30 pieces of silver by religious leaders, the high priests, to betray Jesus. I don't think Museveni and NRM were in charge of Judea when that corruption took place. The point I am making, corruption is an age-old problem. And even the NRM government cannot wake up and make a pronouncement and the corruption ends there and then. So it's a struggle. It's a struggle. We must do everything possible to fight corruption, and therefore nobody should accuse President Yoweri Museveni or NRM that we have not fought corruption. So we call upon all Ugandans of all walks of life to do their part as we fight. Finally, transition. Transition is taking place. We go to Parliament and see the attrition rate, how many new members of Parliament have come to replace the old ones. There is one member of Parliament who is 22 or 24 years.
24.
24, having defeated the seniors and so forth. There is a woman from Bujisu, the one who was saying she has been taken to court that she's not a Ugandan. She defeated, I think, 80 men.
From
Namisindwa. So transition is taking place. Unless if you are about to say transition means President Museveni leaving power. There are provisions in the Constitution how a president is changed. So if president, for whatever reason, left the presidency, there are adequate constitutional provisions on how we will transit into another president. So that should not give you sleepless night. So the assurance we want to give the viewers, the observation I made in the Kyankwanzi, we have vibrant members of parliament with different professional backgrounds, demographically stretching from younger people to senior citizens, and we have a very good blend. So, and with the training that the party has given members of parliament, we expect a vibrant 12th parliament, which is going to do its work of legislation, oversight, and the other functions of parliament. And therefore, nobody, like somebody said, he has lost hope in the 12th parliament simply because he saw them putting on a UPDF uniform. Surely, be serious. This is the team Ugandans have elected. We shall have another orientation for all the members of parliament, including the opposition, and then parliament will be up and running. So, challenge us to deliver for you, and we shall be able to do our best as the 12th parliament.
Thank you. Gentlemen and lady, thank you very much for coming and discussing such a pertinent topic there, but also the production team that has made today possible, but importantly, you who has been watching up to these wee hours of the morning, and also the ones that have sent messages, thank you very much. From us to you, good morning, and have a fabulous day.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.